Well, here we go. It is a special live chat here on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now Network, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever else the boys put it. Hi, I'm Dan Kingerski on the network. I just had a bunch of pictures. I don't know where they all went. I'm trying to find them. Hang on. Graphics. No, I'm learning the new software. Literally, I hit record and all of the cool stuff, it went away. So here's what we're going to talk about on the live chat: the Tristan Jarry trade. There's multiple levels to unpack here, and I'm going to get very specific. We're going to get in the weeds here, both the positives and negatives. I'll be honest, it did surprise me just a wee little bit, at least the timing of it. The funny thing is, this morning, talking to a source, that Tristan Jarry was aware of the trade talk. Maybe not necessarily to the level that it reached this morning, because people thought, okay, after Christmas is when this trade would go down, including, I think, Tristan Jarry. That's what I believe, that he believed after Christmas the deal would go down. However, as I'm writing this, literally, Elliot Friedman breaks the first report that today the trade could happen. I hear that the talks are in a delicate position. And then literally before I can hit publish, all hell breaks loose. Sam Poulin is included. The Penguins trade Jarry Poulin to the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for left-handed defenseman Brett Kulak, goalie Stuart Skinner, and a 2029 second-round pick. And even those of you who are very young, if you want to feel old, realize that 2029 second-round pick will have been born in 2011. Yeah, that's a humbling little stat there, isn't it? So I want to get into, let me see if I can find these pictures here before I quit and give up, because they were all just there a minute ago. I guess maybe I have to do these. Well, let me do this first. Here is Kyle Dubas telling us exactly why he made the trade.
Like I've said it in a number of these press conferences we've had, I think with goaltending, it comes with a certain sense of volatility. There's very few goalies in the league that are, that have that linear progression night after night, and whether it's an up and down profession. It's a very tough profession, and I don't think we've at times made it the easiest position to play with our play in front of him over the years. And I think in his case, I would say that this year he probably had been working out as intended. I mean, he'd steadied himself, as we talked about at the end of last season, come back from being sent to the minors, played very well, and just think with where we're at, this, and the opportunity to bring in a goalie that has deep experience in Stu, plus what we feel is an ability to upgrade our defense, plus the draft pick. It made sense for us to do it at this time, and I think Tristan, as everyone here has seen, is extremely talented, and it'll be a great opportunity for him in Edmonton, where he's had success in junior with the Oil Kings, and they make their home there. So I'm happy for him.
All right, so let me see if I can get Dubas off the screen now. There I am. Oh, I don't know if I like this new software where I have to actually hit 3 buttons to get me back on the screen, but that's Kyle Dubas. Now, did you notice the first couple of sentences there? I think what Dubas was very subtly alluding to was basically trading Jarry while the getting is good. There's a lot of volatility in goaltending. Very few goalies around the league have a linear progression night to night. Essentially, what he's saying is, yeah, guys struggle, and then guys have a good year or 2 years. He went through that in Toronto. Think of Campbell and the goaltenders he went through, including Matt Murray up north. And so when he comes down to Pittsburgh, he re-signs Tristan Jarry. Technically, it was kind of a free agent signing, because after July 1st, you get the idea. And Jarry promptly has 2 of the worst years of his career. That's the volatility. Jarry rebounds this year. Now look conversely. What did the Penguins acquire? We'll get to Brett Kulak in a few seconds, but they get Stuart Skinner, whose stock is probably at an all-time low right now. I don't think Skinner's stock will ever get lower unless he completely crashes out with the Penguins. So that volatility, basically what Kyle Dubas did was sell high on Tristan Jarry. He improved the Penguins' defense. He got a project or a gamble in net and a second-round pick. If I had told you in August the Penguins would get just a second-round pick for Tristan Jarry, how many of you would have raised your hand and said, let's do it? 98% of you. Now, if I said you got defenseman Brett Kulak, who probably could be, maybe, possibly their best left-handed defenseman, how many would have done it? I'm pretty sure 100% of you would have said yes. Now you toss in Stuart Skinner. It's a very unique move because there's not a lot of future to this move. This move is kind of about now. Jarry becoming the number one goalie. Penguins are in a playoff spot. So from that standpoint, it is interesting, but it is Dubas clearing up next year. He referenced a couple of times in his press conference, and I will apologize. I didn't have time to cut that video where, he kind of said next year it's wide open. The Penguins have no commitments to goaltenders next season. Arturs Sheilofs will be a restricted free agent, but they could just as easily say, thanks for playing. Here's the home version about your career now. Thank you for coming. They could let Stuart Skinner, if he doesn't work, walk. They'd have Sergei Murashov, Joel Blomqvist, and what's behind door number 3? Interesting setup Dubas has. He really is kind of flinging open the doors for next year in the sense that whoever plays well will be in Pittsburgh. Whoever doesn't, he now has no encumbrances. He now has no contracts that he must pay or sign, or players who are tied to them beyond this year. It does kind of hurt the Penguins' playoff rush, though. Make no mistake, because Murashov is not coming up, the goaltending tandem for the foreseeable future, that's Dubas's quote, will be Artie Sheilofs and Skinner. Now, before I go to the chat, there are 3 things here, I think, text and subtext to the Tristan Jarry trade. First of all, Jarry's value probably would never be higher than it is right now. It surprised me. I thought they would keep him because he's playing so well, but Dubas decided to maximize now. Skinner's value being very low, he was able to include him in the deal. Here's where the things get interesting, and there's sets and subsets to Stuart Skinner. If you resurrect Skinner, his value is low. If the Penguins goalie coaches, Andy Chiodo, John Elkin, are able to help him take a step forward, now you've got a guy you might resign, or you've got a guy who's a pretty good trade chip. Or 3, if he doesn't take a step forward and you're not very happy, you do let him walk. So those are the 3 options that the Penguins and Stuart Skinner will be facing. And the light burned out. The extra little light. I tell you what, it's Murphy's Law, kids, when I do a live chat. So I think I've laid everything out here in the first 9 minutes of this chat. Let's get to the actual chat. And instead of doing this live, Hungry Hobo points out they also waived Matt Dumba for, well, I don't know that they did it for Kulak, kind of. They needed a roster spot, and they're going to have a lot of defensemen. They needed to get rid, or they needed to move one. I hate to say get rid of one. Dubas did mention it wasn't an easy conversation to have with Dumba. He is a proud veteran, and I got that sense. Like when I haven't actually talked to Dumba since the end of training camp, beginning of the regular season. I think I've just, briefly said hi or, quick question here or there once since then, because I could tell that he was struggling to deal with this new situation. And I like, what am I going to ask beyond about the, one or two questions about a specific game? The questions you're going to ask are how you're dealing with, the scratches and going back in and forth. And I just sort of took a little courtesy with the player and left him be. No, not easy for Dumba. But you're going to have Harrison Brunick coming back. Don't forget, they activated Jack St. Ivany as well, another right-handed defenseman. Their hands are tied with St. Ivany, and I probably should write a bit. I'm going to make a note here. Write about St. Ivany, JSI, because you look at guys like Vladislav Kolyachonok last year, who kind of ping-ponged around. And the year before that, it was John Ludwig, where these seventh defensemen can't slip through waivers, especially a right-handed guy. Do the Penguins see a future with St. Ivany? Yes. He's been a late bloomer. I mean, he is 25, going on 26. But they feel like he's just scratching the surface of what he can bring to the professional level. So they're going to keep him around. He might not play a whole lot. Might be one of those where they sit him out for a while and send him back down to Wilkes-Barre on another conditioning assignment or whatever they can get away with. Yeah, Dumba was. I don't know. I'm sure not very happy. In terms of on the ice, no. It really. I mean, there were a few good games there in a row that Dan Muse reinserted Dumba into the lineup. I thought things would start working, but it really just in the end with Ryan Graves there on the third pairing didn't. I'll go into Dumba a little bit here. The things I thought Matt Dumba didn't do in the regular season nearly as well as he is capable of. Skating the puck. I mean, this guy has some good wheels, and for whatever reasons, the preseason and training camp that he had where he was wheeling around the ice did not translate to the regular season. And he sort of became kind of caught in the middle of his own game. He wasn't hard around the net. He wasn't skating, he wasn't offensive. He wasn't defensive. He was just sort of caught there in the muck and the mire and the quicksand. So yeah, from that standpoint, that's why they waived Dumba. Diane says, hi, Dan. Oh, hi, Diane. NES Addict is kind of happy. What a day, says Ness. I know a lot of you are. Brandon wants to greet us as well. Will is happy about the trade. I knew a lot of you would be just cloud nine, whether the Penguins got a warm six-pack or if they got anything in return. You know what? Now might be a good time. I'm going to actually hide that comment. Now would be a good time to sort of look at the Penguins' blue line with Brett Kulak. Now, what Kulak is, the scouting report on him and the actual play differ quite a bit. Here was a guy who was kind of an offensive defenseman in junior hockey, has been a defensive defenseman, 6'2", somewhere around 200 pounds in the NHL. So he's got decent enough feet. He's got some puck moving skills, but by and large, in Edmonton, he has adopted a net front clearing sort of presence. I think the Penguins sorely need that. Sorely. I mean, the Penguins have allowed, especially think of the 6-on-5 situations in which their crease has become, a discotheque. It's just been a party in the Penguins' crease. Ryan Graves unable to clear people out, and Parker Wotherspoon, that's not his strength. Ryan Shea can be stiff near the crease, but he's not a bulldozer. So if Kulak can help get the goalie's eyes clear, instant upgrade. The question is, will they keep the top four together? Will they keep Shea, Letang, Wotherspoon, Carlson, Graves, and Clifton? I wonder. I wonder if you might see Parker Wotherspoon and Graves begin to trade off a little bit because I believe Wotherspoon's game has regressed, especially over the last several weeks. I mean, haven't noticed him except for some bad moments, actually. So there's that. Um, Maybe he anchors Carlson. Maybe Shea goes with Carlson and Kulak goes with Letang. I don't know. The easiest thing to do, I suppose, would then just be to make Ryan Graves your seventh defenseman. But uh, unfortunately for the Penguins, all three of their left side defensemen are kind of very close in terms of production and play and ceilings and all of that. They're three very similar type players. All right, let me get to Sonny here. I called this trade a month ago. No, you didn't. You didn't call Skinner and Kulak in a number two. The reason Dubas had Muse rotate goalie starts every other game was to force Jarry to stay engaged, raise his value, then trade him. Dubas is a genius. Well, you're putting a lot of between the lines context and subtext into this, aren't you, Sonny? You're you're kind of going back and rewriting a few things. The reason that they did a goalie platoon was one, uh, Jarry was never not engaged. But let's be honest, there have been questions about Tristan Jarry's health. Two, they wanted to give Arturs Shilovs the runway, and that was their word, not mine. They wanted to give Shilovs the runway to grow into the goalie he's going to become. Whether it's what he is right now, whether it's two steps ahead, that is to be determined, right? But they wanted to give Shilovs enough net to grow, to develop. So that's why the platoon. It wasn't necessarily to feature Jarry in a trade. I mean, they would have been just as happy to promote Sergei Murashov to the NHL and send Jarry down if that's what made the most sense in October. It just so happens that Jarry took the net by playing the best of anybody, including Murashov. Go to Mr. Duncan. I hope the trade works out and Skinner thrives with the change of scenery. I don't know if many people realize that Stuart Skinner is kind of an Edmonton native. So there you are. You're on your hometown team. All of your family and friends are constantly around you. Good games, bad games. And you have the pressure of trying to help your hometown team win a Stanley Cup. Now, maybe Stuart Skinner's not the best goalie in the world. Maybe he's simply an average NHL netminder, a guy who should be around the 900 save percentage if he gets some defensive help. I think that's just about average in this game and this moment. Maybe that's exactly where he's at. Maybe a point below, maybe a point above. But you take away all of that pressure of being in your hometown and hearing it when you go to the grocery store and all of that. Skinner might very well find himself with just a lighter load with the Pittsburgh Penguins and in Pittsburgh until he lets up a couple of goals and you're all on him too. Bring up Murashov. Let's be honest, we know it's going to happen. Let's get to Brandon's question here. There's rumblings from Edmonton media folks that both goalies wanted out from their respective teams. Maybe this is a positive for Pittsburgh if that's true. I didn't feel that way this morning. I certainly think that Skinner probably would have liked a different scenario in Edmonton where the GM comes out and says, okay, Picard and Skinner have until Christmas to figure this out, or we're making changes. Perhaps that's where Tristan Jarry expecting to be dealt comes from. But I never got the impression that Tristan Jarry was unhappy with the Penguins. He had his family here. He certainly had every chance to ask out last year and didn't. I mean, he might have been open to a trade, especially when you're languishing in Wilkes-Barre. But to the best of my knowledge, and I don't recall hearing any other reports to the contrary, Jarry didn't ask out. So I don't know. I'm not sure about those reports. Now, if I saw where they came from, and it's like Jim Matheson or one of the Edmonton beat writers, I probably would be very inclined to believe it, at least from Skinner's side. All right, let's go back to Hobo. Just repeated your first comment here. Let's go to Wayne. Hey, Wayne has a new complaint. This seems like a salary dump. They had to take two players they didn't need to offset Jarry's salary this year. Then they get out from under the next 2 years of his contract and a futuristic pick. I don't think so at all. I don't think this is a salary dump at all. Kulak makes the Penguins better today or when he gets here. Actually, I should explain a little bit of something about Brett Kulak's situation because he's Canadian and has never been employed by a U.S. team. He actually has to go through immigration from like start to finish now. He has to get his visa to work in the U.S. That could take several days. Kind of Dubas sort of cracked the smirks like I've been through that myself. And it can take, you don't know how long it's going to take. So maybe they have Kulak for Sunday. Maybe they don't have him until next week. Although the irony would be after next week, the Penguins go up to Canada. That's the Montreal, Ottawa, back for Montreal, up to Toronto. So I suppose in that scenario, if things take a minute, he could play 3 or 4 games after the next few games. But no, in terms of a salary dump, maybe Skinner was to balance it out, but Kulak most certainly was not. And let's be honest, if you're the Penguins, you can eat salary for a couple of years, or you take on Stuart Skinner for 6 months. Easy peasy. No, there's no complication in that decision whatsoever. You've got a guy who could help you, who at worst is a placeholder for Sergei Murashov. And maybe at best, he becomes insurance for Artie Sheloffs. If Sheloffs doesn't progress and Skinner does, well, then maybe next year it's Skinner Murashov. There's no rule that says that can't happen. B. Schaefer says, I'll take a second rounder. Oh, yeah, for just... Dan, I just got here. Will Jarry be starting in Edmonton? Well, I don't think they got him to play defense. Yeah. It's going to be Jarry Picard. So, yes, Jarry, in fact, will be the number 1 goalie in Edmonton. Yeah. Let's go to Berg Dude, impressed at the courage to make a big move like this. Bigger move than Gensel. I don't know about that. I'm not sure how you're seeing that, Berg Dude, but okay. I get being pumped about it. Definitely the drum beat. It went quick this morning. I suppose once Edmonton probably buckled or maybe Dubas accepted, it's funny how those things work. You have several phone conversations and you're a mile away because one side doesn't want to do this or the other side doesn't want to do that if you do this. And then one side says, hey, how about this? You're like, oh, yeah. And it comes together very quickly. Let's see here. Invictus Tsunami something. I mean, will he be sharing the net like here, or is it an upgrade for him? It's an upgrade for Jarry. I would doubt very highly that Picard is going to take a 50% share with Jarry in Edmonton. Picard has had an even worse year up there, and there was a third goalie, was there not? Oh, there's Connor Ingram that Edmonton has stashed away. Perhaps the plan very soon would be a Jarry Ingram, a bit of a platoon. I like Connor Ingram very much. We shall see. B Shape says a lot of Edmonton fans I've seen don't seem particularly happy about this trade. Well, I suppose I understand that because Tristan Jarry's got enough baggage for a 3-week vacation to both Antarctica and Hawaii. He's got plenty of bags in tow the last couple of years. I mean, if you're Edmonton, you're thinking Stanley Cup, Stanley Cup, Stanley Cup. We have to beat Sergei Bobrovsky. Stanley Cup, Stanley Cup, Stanley Cup. Tristan Jarry arrives. Here's a guy who went through waivers last season, spent a month in Wilkes-Barre, and the only reason that he actually came back to the NHL, mind you, was that Joel Blomqvist proved that he couldn't handle the NHL load. Even the NHL game, Blomqvist was lit up like a Christmas tree, and they basically had to recall Tristan Jarry to avoid Blomqvist suffering catastrophic confidence meltdown. So I understand why Edmonton fans might be a little bit tepid on Jarry. I will speak to them perhaps right now. Some of the stuff I've said to you over the last month or two. There is something different about Tristan Jarry this year. A new father, a guy who went through hell last year and came out on the other side and realized, there is life after this. There's life outside of this. Gave him a whole new perspective, and he's played brilliantly. He might have played in the last 2 or 3 weeks the best hockey of his career. And you know what? It wasn't that surprising to me. He had a slow start into training camp. I wasn't overly impressed with him in the early part of preseason, but there was a certain building element to it. He was better each day than the last. And by the time the season rolled around, it was fairly obvious that he was going to stay unless they were just absolutely dedicated to Murashov, which obviously they wanted him to matriculate a little bit more down in Wilkes-Barre. I do understand Edmonton's reticence. I would probably tell an Oilers fan, relax. You're going to get a pretty good Tristan Jarry. And by the way, one of the things that always impressed me about Jarry that I felt bad it got lost in the shuffle over the last couple of years when his performances were not up to par was how gutsy it was for him to play in Game 7, 2022 against the New York Rangers. I mean, this was a guy who really shouldn't have been playing hockey for a couple of months. Remember, the plan, if the Penguins won that Game 7, they were going back to Louis Domingue in Game 1 of Round 2. Or if they won Game 6, Jarry wouldn't have played at all for a couple more weeks because, I mean, his ankle was badly banged up, twisted up. Did he need surgery? I don't recall that part, but he wasn't healthy until later July or August. And there he is out there in Game 7, played really well. You remember that Game 7. That was just a calamity, the perfect storm of weird occurrences, bad calls, and whatever else went against the Penguins in the final 5 minutes there. And as the hockey gods snatched victory from them. I'm going to bet you now that Jarry performs quite well in Edmonton. That's my guess. John says, I have reservations trading our number one goalie, who has been instrumental in putting the team in a playoff position. I think that is fair. That's why I played the Dubas clip at the top of the show, the volatility. That, I think, was Dubas' way of telling everybody we had to do it now because if things go south, we'll never get this offer again. All right. Zachary, can't believe Dubas got any type of value to get his full contract off the books. I bet Zachary's a big Tristan Jarry fan. Cruxer, the goaltending battles between Fowler in Montreal and Murashov in Pittsburgh over the next few years are going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, Fowler looked like he's the real deal too, didn't he? He made a couple of saves on McGroarty and Koivunen and Kindle that they were good saves. That was not an amateur playing. Gable Fisk out in Vegas. Bust is a strong term for someone taken outside the top 20, but I think we can comfortably call Sam Poulin a never was. Sadly, in this moment, I agree with you. I didn't talk about Sam Poulin, so let me do that for a minute now. Of all of the comings and goings on Friday, I was quite happy to see Poulin traded, not because I thought the Penguins were good to get rid of him, but because I think it's fantastic that he's going to get some new eyes and new scenery and a chance to establish himself as an NHL regular. Thought he had a very good training camp. He has put himself in a much better position than he has ever been. His head is clear. As a result of getting over the past hurdles of the personal problems and the mental health, he was able to really focus on the ice. He looked quicker. In fact, he was quicker on the ice, and he also weighs about 225 pounds. He showed some confidence. He showed a little bit of flair in the couple of games he played a few weeks ago, coming off the wall, like winning a puck battle, spinning off the wall, looking at the net and ripping a pretty good shot. I liked the move he pulled a couple of times. I think he'll get a shot in Edmonton. I hope they acquired him or wanted him as a throw-in, not to bury him or have him just languish in, I think it's Bakersfield. I would hope that they got him to give him a real NHL chance, and I very much hope he succeeds. And he goes, unfortunately, from a never was to a, oh, what could have been. You can maybe he'll be the guy that really does hang around Mike Sullivan's neck. As see, did give young guys a chance. Maybe Sam Poulin can be that guy. Let's go to Brandon here. Is there any reality where Letang ends up a healthy scratch? Come on, of all the things we're talking about today, you're going to go back to Chris Letang? There's no way that the coaching staff doesn't see what we are seeing. He's cooked. Well, actually, there's a lot of ways the coaching staff doesn't see what you see, because Penguins fans are fixated on these pretty terrible gaffes. I mean, mind you, Letang, boy, when Letang makes a mistake, he makes it count. You know, getting walked at the end of the game in Anaheim, and that the icing call leading to the 2.5-minute shift last night, leading to that turnover and goal against. Those are brutal. But tell me how he played the rest of the game. After that, listen, he was a perfectly capable, solid defenseman after that. That's what the coaching staff sees. There's just a certain level of error baked into Chris Letang's game. And as his top end lowers, obviously he's not offsetting those errors like he used to with the same proficiency. But listen, he's going to be in the Penguins lineup. He's not becoming a healthy scratch. That would shock me unless he starts wearing down. And even the coaching staff's like, okay, Chris needs a breather. Even then, I want you to understand you don't do that to a veteran of Letang's status until you're showing him the door. No coach would do that. It's just part of the unwritten rules of hockey, the hockey code of coaching and locker room. You don't scratch Chris Letang unless he needs to be scratched because he's physically just not there enough for you. Zachary asks, I think, a pretty good question here. What happens when Caleb Jones comes back? I don't have an answer for you on that one. Obviously, somebody would have to go. The odds are that it would be Caleb Jones who would be sent to Wilkes-Barre. But let's cross that bridge when we come to it, because they will make a decision in the moment not based on what happened in November or December. They're going to make a decision based on who's playing well right now. How does the team fit together? Uh, let's just say that Parker Wotherspoon falls off the table or Ryan Graves falls off the table. Then the decision in the future will be much different than it is today. If you ask me to predict, I think Jones would be the odd man out. Let's see here. Voltage. I think a big problem for us. Wait, you and me or the Penguins? What are you talking about, Voltage? What define us? I think a big problem for them is not being in front of the net on both sides of the puck. Too much perimeter play. No one to pick up rebounds. That's why there's so many shots, but so little goals. Voltage, I think you've read the last two report cards, haven't you? I went deep into that very topic several times, actually 3 times over the last 5 days. But most, let me rewind here. Going back several days, the line that has produced the most rebound chances, the entire season combined, 29 games. Guess which line has produced the most rebound chances? That's right. Ben Kindle, Rutger McGroarty, and Ville Koivunen had produced 13 chances in just 35 minutes. Now they've played 2 games since then. So that total has gone up because you've seen McGroarty hacking and whacking, trying to get that puck through goaltenders. He probably had 2 or 3 more pokes at Fowler on Thursday. Now, the second line was Mantha, Malkin, and Brazeau, but they were well behind. Third place was Ben Kindle, centering Tommy Novak and Philip Hollander. I'll get it right first time one of these days. Philip Hollander. Yes, so the Penguins clearly have had difficulty creating rebounds, creating chaos. That's what we wrote about on Thursday night. And the report card was all about the perimeter play, all about the chances they didn't have. That's what I asked Dan Muse post game. Like, are you satisfied? Are they doing enough? And cutting to the chase on what he said was, well, we had opportunities to stay in the crease, but we left that zone. And I think the Penguins need Mantha and Brazeau to use those 6'5" shoulders and start to cause a little ruckus. Right now, the second line is trying to play too pretty, too cute, finesse, and they need a little sandpaper in their game as they had back in October. But you're exactly right. Also, if you remember after the Anaheim loss, I diagrammed the flaw in the Penguins' execution or in Dan Muse's system. I'm still not sure which, at 6-on-5, where teams were able to basically take over the Penguins' low zone with that one extra person, create an open man because of the man-to-man defense. So the Penguins weren't winning the battle in front of the net, which doubled the open man chaos and problem. Hopefully yeah. I don't mind people quoting me back to me. I feel special when that happens. I don't think I've disliked any of Dubas's trades. He's been real good with asset management. Oh, give it time. Just give it time, right? Let's go to challenge. I want to get somebody new on here. Do you think that this could be why the team played their uninterested hockey a lot of last night because they knew their goalie who's keeping them in games was leaving? No, I don't think anyone knew this trade was coming. It really came together this morning. I think they've known it's a possibility. I mean, look, they've all seen the trade rumors. They've been seeing it from Elliot Friedman for a couple of weeks. It's been out there. And as much as they try to say they don't hear, look at, read media, everyone's texting them, hey, you guys are trading Jarry? So they knew, but no, that's not why they were disinterested. I really think that traffic jam kind of blew up. That really just took them off kilter. And then they made a couple of mistakes early in the second period, and they really just never found it. It was a funky, weird night, and I think it's probably easy to flush that game. There was no hangover from Anaheim. That was just an odd night. Cruxer, great moves from Dubas, a defensive piece that helps now with no commitment long terms. That's, Kulak is a free agent as well. Throws fuel on the battle between the young goaltenders to earn a spot next year, and all three assets can be flipped. Yep. Let's see here. Here's Hungry Hobo. As far as franchise goalies go, Barrasso, Fleury, Jarry, candlelight vigil in this household tonight, end of an era. I don't know that I'd put Jarry in the class of Barrasso and Fleury. You might be going a little far on that one, a little far, just maybe a touch too far there. Clinton here says, I'm an Oilers fan. Thank you for that story about Game 7. I didn't know that about his ankle. I think he will do well in Edmonton. The fans are loud in oil country right now, but that's normal. Do me a favor, Clinton. Send me some Donair pizza. I'm getting like 12 hours in Edmonton in January. It's all I get. So I'm going to have to choose my meal. My choose between my two favorite Edmonton meals. I'm either going to have a Donair pizza for lunch, or I'm going to go over to the Praha Bistro, or Bistro Praha, kind of over past the mall, and get that Czechoslovakian goulash. Oh, it's so good. I have to choose one or the other this year. Maybe I'll come back in the summer like I did a couple of years ago. I like Edmonton in the summer. Cheap vacation. I just ate my way through. I like blue collar eats. Let's see here. I want to see McDavid get a cup win. I hope Jarry can help get them there. Yeah, the problem with that is, man, Colorado and Dallas are so freaking good. I think Edmonton will beat Dallas in a 7-game series because Dallas has trouble with good skating teams. Like the Penguins could handle Dallas. Yet Dallas handles the Western Conference. I think Edmonton will handle Dallas, but who's going to handle Colorado? Good gosh almighty. New conspiracy theory. Gary Bettman forced the trade to get ticket sales up for the December 16th game. Masterclass by Dubas, says Ernie. Alternative here is that let Skinner get some wins in Pittsburgh and flip him at the deadline for another asset. Call up Murashov. More options equals good. Yes. Isn't that what I've said? I'm pretty sure that's what I said, right? Apolitical. What are the chances that we re-sign Skinner? By the way, guys, re-sign has a hyphen. Resign doesn't. What are the chances we re-sign Skinner if he plays well? Or will he be used as trade bait at the deadline to give way to Murashov the following season? Yes, I have done my research on Murashov. There's the variable in that question, apolitical, is Artur's Shilovs. Also, Skinner's play. Let's not brush over that fact. Yeah, if Shilovs is showing that he is a capable NHL goalie, then I think certainly Skinner is the one who goes. If Shilovs is still has some question marks, if the Penguins are unsure, then Skinner does enter the mix. I don't know. I mean, it's entirely possible. Think about here. Let me blow your mind with this one. What if the Penguins were to trade Shilovs at the March deadline? Certainly, some teams were interested in him prior to the season. Okay, this is just weird. Voltage, I missed the presence Michael Bunting had, although moving him was definitely the right move for where we are at. Okay. I can't say I've had many people fondly reminisce about the Michael Bunting era with the Penguins. Let's go to a rock star here. I'll be so glad to get off this injury train and play with a full complement of players and see what we have or don't have. Yeah, I would say that's very interesting. What's going to happen um, when Malkin comes back? Because I haven't seen a lot from Brazeau. I mean, he's missed a few weeks. He's probably getting back in the swing of things. That second line over the last couple of games without Evgeny Malkin has been poor at best. They've been silent, invisible, non-existent. So they're going to need Malkin back, and it becomes a real question. Let's be frank here. Everyone got excited over Brazeau's production, 6 goals, 12 points in the first 12 games, but that is so far beyond career norms for Brazeau that it almost doesn't count. It almost is a full and total reset. What can he do now? Will he be a physical force? Will he lower his shoulder and play in the dirty areas? Or will he kind of revert to the finesse game that I saw on Thursday? I mean, he has some soft mitts. I mean, he's made some neat little plays off the wall, little touch pass here, slick little pass there. You're not looking for a 6'5", 6'6" guy. Actually, he might even be closer to 6'7". He's huge. 240-pound dude to wheel and deal. You want him to go create some space and go knock some pucks and maybe even move a body or two. I mean, he at the end of last year, he did have a point in 19 games with Montreal. So that is something to watch here going forward. What's the plan for the bum at this point, says Chucky. Well, which bum are you talking about? You have to be a little more specific. The bum. You guys crack me up here. All right, so I'm going to just very quickly wrap things up. I want you to check out PittsburghHockeyNow.com. I've put quite a bit of work into it this season. Let me share the screen. Oh, I need to get actually on to Pittsburgh Hockey Now before I can share the screen. So I want to show you the article I just published and some of the things we have been working on today. I am going to probably wrap this up in a couple of minutes because Dubas kind of explained himself, whether you agree, whether you disagree. The Penguins did activate today Rickard Rakell, and they waived Matt Dumba. I would expect to see Rickard Rakell play against the Sharks on Saturday afternoon. And, of course, you have the Tristan Jarry trade where the Penguins finally pulled the trigger. And I went through all the things we've talked about on this show, really the if then else of Stuart Skinner. I think Kulak, I do think Kulak probably plays in the top 4, but I'm not willing to bet heavily on that. So if Skinner plays well, you re-sign him or you trade him. It's a win-win. If he doesn't play well, you let him walk. And at any point, you are not tied to either Sheloffs or Skinner because, well, you've got Murashov. And Kyle Dubas was also very quick to point out how well Joel Blomqvist is playing in Wilkes-Barre. I may have to watch a few games. I'll admit I probably began to pigeonhole Blomqvist just a bit last year as a guy who's really good in the AHL, kind of a Caden Primo sort. Big numbers down there, mediocre numbers in the NHL. That's kind of where I began to put Blomqvist, but he's still only 23. Plenty of time to figure some things out, to learn a few things, to improve this or improve that, whether it be anticipation. I thought he actually had a pretty good glove hand, but he also, his angles got wonky and his game really began to melt. So maybe a second crack at it. The thing I will tell you about the Penguins goaltending situation, and here is the bedrock upon which everything is going to be built. Who has earned it? Who deserves it? Those questions are going to define who are the Penguins goalies. Let me try to say that without muttering and mumbling it all through that again. The bedrock on which Dubas is making these decisions, who is earning it, who is deserving it. And that's who's going to be on the bench and in the net. It doesn't really matter if you're a 30-year-old veteran on a contract or you're a 21-year-old from Russia in your second professional year. The Penguins actually are trying to win every game. The tank, no, that not happening. I will take one last question here because I'm going to shed some light on this. Actually, it's public knowledge. I'm not giving you anything that wasn't out there, but I think a lot of people missed it. Let's see. Any truth to the rumor that Dubas and Rutherford had a gentleman's agreement not to trade Shelovs to Edmonton? Partially. Rutherford declined to trade Shelovs to Edmonton, opting for less in return to send him to Pittsburgh. Whether or not there's a gentleman's agreement, those things usually last only about 10 seconds until the situation changes. If Edmonton called with a first-round pick for Artie Shelovs, I'm sure Kyle Dubas would have made the trade, right? So that's it. I appreciate all of you. Huge numbers for 4 o'clock on a Friday. Maybe we'll move the live chats to now. Wow. 142 live viewers at the end of the hour. I love you guys. I will be, of course, San Jose Penguins Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock. I'll tell you a quick story. I put my face in it today. I didn't step in it. I just fell in it. I didn't realize it was a 3 o'clock game tomorrow. And I asked Muse about a morning skate. Yeah. When athletes say they are day to day, one day at a time, they don't mean it. I do. I've been so busy the last few days. Honest to God, I've missed a couple of the tweets about the transactions. I've just been chasing my tail from one end to the other. All right, kids. I appreciate you all. That's it. Go have some fun. In the meantime,